Yeah.
I have nothing to talk about.
Let's
That's
mute.
all.
Stand by. Okay, now everybody's muted. Stand by.
Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another stupendous episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing Ghostwatch, the most diabolical UK special on the BBC that was ever produced. I'm the editor-in-chief over at bloodygoodhorror.com. Joining me tonight for this staff pick discussion. First up, he designs bloodygoodhorror.com. He wears flannel. His name is Mark.
Hello.
It's part of the web designer uniform, right? Flannel?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Next up on the show, he's the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com, and as such, lives where you'd expect him to, New York City. He's also rocking a sick vest tonight that I'm not even going to make fun of because it's awesome. His name is Schnars.
Hello, gentlemen.
John Schnars, if you're nasty.
Yeah, happy to be here. I'm also very weirded out to be hearing music right now because I was not here last week, and it's different.
Oh, this is new. Good, good. Very exciting. Last up here on the show, he writes horror fiction. He hosts the Instamatic. He's got a beard. He lives in the Midwest. His name is Casey.
Hi.
Mine's getting a little out of control. I need to trim it up a little bit.
Yeah, I need to do some evening.
Anyway, folks, so we're here tonight to talk about Ghostwatch. This is my staff pick, the last in a round of staff picks we've been doing over the last 2 months or so here. Pretty excited to talk about it. It's this wacky little found footage thing that aired on Halloween night in the United Kingdom in 1992. You know what I decided, Mark? I love British things. Well, I decided literally while watching this movie, like, British things are awesome. What do they call that? Like, Anglophile or something?
Yeah, the Anglophilic.
Sure.
I believe.
It's like they're like us, Mark, and their things are like our things, but just a little different in the fanciest way.
Well, I think they call that biscuit fuckery, I think is what it is.
I feel like we've gone a little deeper on New Zealand horror over the last couple, I don't know, years over the times. And like we actually haven't done that much British stuff. At least that I can think about.
It's like a funhouse mirror version of America. Although they probably think the reverses of us, so I get it. But
yeah,
we had a British listener on our Instagram saying that they were really excited for the episode because they like the wacky ways in which we try to interpret foreign things, like especially British.
We really love making broad, sweeping generalizations about cultures that we don't fully understand. That's one of our favorite things to do on this show.
I mean, I have spent time in Britain, or in England specifically. Like,
Some of my best friends are British.
No, but I actually, this one I actually feel like if I say something about it, I'm not just like coming completely out of left field. But
Yeah, that's good. That's an
I
improvement
saw A
for all
Clockwork
of us.
Orange. I've seen Sid and Nancy, and now I've seen Ghostwatch. So what else do I need? And I saw that weird movie with the two guys who are like cons and they escape and they pretend to be nuns.
oh my God, isn't that called like
I have
Weird
no
No
idea.
Angels or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what else do I need to know about the? I'm an expert, basically.
You ever
Have any
seen
of us
Mr.
watched,
Bean? That's a weird.
I have
dude.
not seen. Oddly
Mr.
enough,
Bean.
have not seen Mr. Bean, but that is a weird British thing.
Any of us seen Downton Abbey? Any of us Downton Abbey watchers?
No.
I have watched it all.
Nice,
I don't know what
dude.
that makes me.
I think that Mr. Bean might secretly be
Makes you a
Pikes.
biscuit fucker, Casey. That's pretty clear.
Biscuit.
Oh,
Um,
that's what you meant.
Hey, Mark.
No, I'm trying to come up with this is like super embarrassing. I'll remember it then. Oh, Benny Hill. That's what I was trying to think of. You guys ever seen the Benny
Yeah.
Hill show?
Of course.
on YouTube and mixed to other things. Sure.
That's like everybody my age's dirty old man dream is to be Benny Hill.
Well, yeah. I mean, but it used to be on TV when we were when I was younger. I feel like it was on like A&E or something, like in the mornings on Saturday. It was they used to show it. That's like one of the other things that I always think about. So
Who's watching A&E on Saturday mornings?
John.
no, like, but it was one of those things. Like, my dad was like real big on
It used to be on the
Three
Learning
Stooges.
Channel. Ugh.
Well, they used to have Three Stooges on TV, and we would like wake up and like we would watch Three Stooges, and then Benny Hill like came on after it, or like I don't know how it got.
God,
turned
I
How
feel
old
like
are you?
A, yes. B, I am confident that we've had this discussion before because I seem to remember talking about how dumb the Three Stooges are and
It's a real hot lead
multiple
into
people getting
Beaver.
upset. I have a hot take on the Three Stooges, John. So, Mark, speaking of hot takes, you know where
Yeah.
you can find hot takes every day?
Yeah, man.
BloodyGoodHorror.com.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a
Sure
hot
is.
take up on there on my favorite Cameron Diaz film, The Box.
The Box.
I was glad to see that it was given a favorable review by one point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so that's kind of a behind the scenes thing, but sometime around last summer, when I knew that we were going to be doing Killer Flicks with an X,
Killer Flicks.
I decided that we really needed. There were like a couple dozen films that we did podcast episodes for and didn't have reviews, and you may have noticed that since then, like we're really working our way through all those. So that's a thing that's sort of an invisible thing that's happening, is that you're starting to see reviews pop up for movies we did podcast episodes on. Another thing that's going on that's pretty exciting is that after months and months and months of cryptically hinting that I might be thinking about making updates to the front page of the site, I'm actually about 75% of the way there. And by the next podcast episode, that should be live on the site. It's going to include a couple things. It's going to include better links into lists and trailers and book content. It's also going to include some social posts mixed in with the feed. So historically, we've kind of had trouble promoting stuff on the site that's going to be kind of live and topical. And now I'll be able to bring in Instagram and Twitter stuff. So that's going to be really awesome. So when CC posts a new book club, for example, I'll be able to bring that tweet onto the front page of our website. So if you miss something on Twitter, or if you miss something on Facebook, you'll be able to see it right on the website, which I'm like super excited about.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Did you get to post that picture I sent on Instagram today?
No, but I will. I can
should do
post
it
it
during
as
the
like
show.
a promo for this episode.
Yeah.
Another thing, quick, while we're there. So one of the things that you will also see in the update, which is related to the social thing, I did get a confirmed date and time for the Urban Legends Tweet with BGH. So it's going to be on April 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And Sophie will be posting a drinking game on April 7th, so a couple days before. So that'll all be at bloodygoodhorror.com.
Spring has sprung, you guys.
Yeah,
It was
for
like
real.
60 degrees.
we made it finally.
Yeah.
Barely
Yeah.
on my part.
Shut
anyway.
up, Vesty McVestface.
John,
Got him.
Yes.
what do we got coming up here on Bloody Good Horror over the next couple of weeks? Some theater stuff, right?
Oh, you mean movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, stand by. I
No, I
have
was
the list
asking
open here
you
somewhere.
about.
Okay, so
I was asking you about website stuff, John.
I probably should have confirmed all of these things before you asked me, but I'll tell you what was on our list, and I don't know. Like, I'll pull up Box Office Mojo while I'm talking, but next week there's a theater thing called the Disappointments Room.
Yes.
That
Best title of 2016 so far.
it looks like it might have gotten bumped again.
If Joe were here, he would make a joke about prom.
Yeah.
Like my prom night, am I right? Hey-oh.
So this is one I know we've talked about it. It got kind of like thrown into distribution limbo because of like some acquisitions or like bankruptcies or something. It actually looks like the next thing we're getting is going to be the 8th of April, and that's Before I Wake, which unfortunately comes out on the same weekend as Hardcore Henry. So we might have to make some decisions there or bump something.
I
a week.
really, really want to see Hardcore Henry, and I think that given my own love of found footage and our coverage of it, I think it could be a good discussion.
Totally agree. No, and so we don't have anything. It's basically Before I Wake and Hardcore Henry that same weekend, and it looks like have very little else. There were a bunch of things on the schedule that look like they've now been bumped. So
Should we do Batman versus Superman, which is getting glowing reviews? I'm not hearing.
I want to see it.
say,
I want to see it.
where are you reading these reviews?
I immediately want to see a movie when I see a bunch of like just overzealous angry nerd reviews because I want to be the contrarian in the back of my head. It's probably terrible, but still.
Yeah.
I
mean,
that Superman movie. I really like Man of Steel, like a lot.
I mean, really liked is strong.
But I also think Superman in general is dumb. So
yeah, there is this movie called Green Room. It looks like it's now going to go limited. It was supposed to get. It looked like it was going to get a little bit wider release. Now it's going to be a little more limited. It looks like that's on the 15th. That's the one that's kind of like a. Well, I think you guys saw the trailer. It was in front of The Witch. They showed it because it's the same distributor.
The Witch.
The Witch.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know. There's really not a whole lot. We're in kind of a quiet period. You
guys want to just do an episode on the urban legend next weekend?
So wait. Do we have an open weekend this weekend?
We do have an open weekend.
You know what we could do? I mean, I'm sure we have a list. I think we have a list, but we do want to catch up with the Purge Anarchy so that we're ready for that sequel.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we should do that.
Why
We
not?
should get that in here. We have a bunch of open weeks, so we should have maybe a conversation off the air. I don't know about when,
No way.
and
We should
where
just
we
keep
want to
talking
cover
about
things.
this for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, there's a movie called The Darkness that I think we just saw the trailer for. That's the one with the Native American ghosts, like in our possession series of like non-white people ghosts. I guess I don't know what.
Really walking on eggshells there, John.
Yeah, that's a weird way to put that.
That new animated flick that I think Seth Rogen and some people like that were involved in, that Hell and Back's on Netflix
weird.
now too.
Oh,
Wait,
I would
that's
like
on
to watch
Netflix?
Oh,
That's not wait. The movie with the hot dogs and stuff?
No, the one where they go to hell.
Gotcha. Oh.
Yeah, that actually, I would definitely do that. I think that's a good kind of palate cleanser.
All right. Well, we are doing that hot dog movie, by the way. It's happening.
Is that a horror? Is that supposed to be?
It's all about how scared they are
looks
that they're
horrific.
being eaten. It's like it turns into literally. There's like in the trailer at some point there are horror movie musical cues and stuff, and they're like, we're doing it.
It's already my favorite movie ever because
Don't even try
Eric-
arguing.
because our mom sent us an email with the trailer link, and she was basically like, "You guys like violence and foul language? Here's a trailer." That's pretty
Also
simple.
like,
reminds
does
me.
she send you other trailers, or is this like
No,
one
she sent the
trailer she
weirdest
saw?
shit. One time she just sent like a picture of an alligator like snatching a fucking deer out of a lake. Cause she's like, "This is crazy. I thought you guys would like this." It's like, okay. But it only happens like once every couple of years. It doesn't happen all the time, which makes it even fucking better.
It also reminds me of the time that I went to my other brother's house to pick Mark up because we were going to go see Frank and Weenie together for the show, and my brother's mother-in-law like could not understand the idea that we were going to see an animated movie. Like she's to her that's like there's movies and there's animated movies and those are for kids. And like legit made fun of us for probably 20 minutes until I was
really
finally
roasted
like,
us pretty good.
"Hey Mark, you want to go?" Yeah, roasted. Yeah.
To which
That's
our sister-in-law said to her, "Your favorite movie's Monsters Inc." And she's like, "Oh yeah, you're right."
That's a sweet movie,
It's
though.
pretty
Like
good.
I'm in on Monsters
pretty
Inc.
good.
So
Monsters Inc. So, anyways, this animated movie actually is pretty relevant. I think something that we could watch would be cool.
I would also posit that we might need to see Keanu and just like do a standalone episode on it.
What's Keanu?
It's the
Key
John
and Peele.
Wick send up that Key and Peele
okay.
did. Yeah,
Is it a whole
It's
movie?
about their cat.
dude, you haven't seen this trailer? I thought we had a whole
It's a
Slack
whole
conversation
movie?
about it. It's
You probably did. I
top
guess.
5 trailer I've ever seen. Probably
Nice.
I would put it up there.
Those guys are the best.
Yeah,
Key and Peele.
concur.
Joe's out, so normally at this point in the show we'd be getting his beer recommendation. Is anybody drinking anything lovely, or do you have like a British beer recommendation?
I'm drinking
Lovely-
tea.
Lovely Kirkland vitamin water.
I'm drinking some. I think it's called like Bird Dog whiskey something or other.
I like that Casey's rocking the generic vitamin water. I don't know why. I like that.
It's not triple X.
I got some
It's
mint.
tasty stuff.
I got some mint tea.
I'm doing a little ginger tea over here. It's good times.
This is why we need
Jesus
Joe.
Christ. This is fucking book club. What
Jared-
is this?
Welcome
Welcome to
Jared
the
Talkcast.
podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're getting.
John, you're not wearing your fucking old man glasses like the rest of us. What's going on?
I'm the only one who can see around here.
You are wearing an LL Bean catalog vest though, so I guess that counts.
LL Bean. Come on, man.
Now that
Buff
Mark
vest.
has glasses, I taught him the pro tip of you got to pull your glasses out from your headphones so they don't press against your ears.
No way,
Because after
dude.
the last show, he's like, why do my ears hurt?
I pushed my headphones down. I got like a vice grip going on right now.
No,
This
it's
is
no good. It's no
Just
good.
torturing myself trying to stay sharp. All right, should we talk about this movie?
No, now I'm really distracted by the fact that you have your headphones on, like with your glasses like that.
Man,
I think we should just
I've only been
convert
doing it
this
for
to a
7
glasses
years, dude.
podcast. So.
Yeah.
glass cast.
All right, guys. Let's do it. Let's talk about Ghostwatch.
Jesus wept.
This is Jake Busey. You're listening to the Bloody Good Horror Podcast.
This is it, Jennifer. There's big breaking TV. Up the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back.
Main feature.
So fourth wall breaking for people who like maybe didn't realize that the bumpers have never been live. Well, I mean, they've actually been live for me for like 6 months or so, but not last week was the first time that everybody was hearing them. And if you're watching the video, you can just see everybody just bust out dancing. It really makes me happy, actually.
So wait, did you guys didn't talk about this on the last show at all?
We did, but you know, maybe they.
Oh, I was
listen.
gonna say because like I haven't listened to the show because I don't want to spoil the movie, so I'm
Yeah,
staying away.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
You gotta go see it, dude.
You
yeah.
did miss Joe's nifty finger dance, though.
So Joe's dancing was cracking me up so much last week that if you go back and watch the video, whenever I came back from a bumper, I was staring down on my desk because if I looked at the video, I was gonna like totally lose what I was
Oh
doing.
my, Joe's dancing. I now like when I'm listening to the podcast and I hear, I like associate Joe's dancing with the different bumpers on the podcast, and I just see it in my head and laugh softly to myself.
John Schnars.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Shanners, you missed. I didn't read it last week, but one of our listeners, Beth, wrote in an impassioned defense of the credentials of the Duke Hospital, which I didn't read because you weren't here.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thank you, Beth.
so you're
I at
welcome.
least I appreciate that you acknowledge that you know.
So that's 2 people, which is like 8 less than have written in to say that they like RSS feeds.
Yeah, fair
Keep
point.
the faith, you fucking weirdos.
To be fair, too, I showed Mark the app that I use my RSS feeds in. He's like, "Oh yeah, okay, I could see that." Because it just looks like. Honestly, Mark, you know what? You want the real burn? It looks like our homepage
Hey,
once you load everything
Snap.
into it.
You ever notice that no one writes in about that unless we mention it on the show, which means that no one's
Well,
really.
that's a weird thing to write into a
clamoring for
horror
it.
show about, unless it's mentioned on the show. All right, John. John-
So a word.
John,
Would
you went to
like it?
college. You do words. You do words, right?
Sometimes
In the
I'm
pot.
familiar with words.
Yeah. Let's do words. Please bring us the word of the day. What do you got for us this week, John?
Today's word: spiritism.
Ooh.
Spiritism. Well, so I'm going to read from the Wikipedia here because the actual definition was super boring. Spiritism is a spiritualistic doctrine codified in the 19th century by the French educator Hippolyte Léon Denisard.
He sounds like a French
Wow.
educator.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
4 names. That was confusing to me.
He's
He
got
did
4
this under
names.
the codename Alan Kardec, and it was later called the Kardist spiritualism doctrine. In any event, it proposed the study of the nature, origin, and destiny of spirits and their relation with the corporeal world. And it soon spread to other countries, having today 35 countries represented in their Spiritist Council. Spiritism postulates that humans are essentially immortal spirits that temporarily inhabit physical bodies for several necessary incarnations to attain moral and intellectual improvement. It also asserts that spirits, through passive or active mediumship, may have beneficent or maleficent influence on the physical world.
So many words.
Yeah.
I bet you're real bummed Joe wasn't here to be impressed by that.
I mean, you know what? I'm sure he's holding me in high regard wherever he is right now. So.
Yeah.
John, can I tell you that corporeal is one of my favorite words to hear you say?
Oh yeah. No. I use that as a word of the day. That might be like an OG word of the day.
Corporeal. Actually, no lie. Corporeal is one of those words that I had never heard until I met Mr. John Schnars, and I use it in conversation.
I was going to say, it might even have been that word which like forced Eric to make me do the word of the day segment.
The other word is aggressive. Like Schnars likes to use the word aggressive as a qualifier. Like this movie is aggressively bad. Yeah. And then I was telling him that I was listening to this other podcast, and I kept thinking, man, this dude sounds just like Schnars, and he says shit like aggressively bad, blah, blah, blah. And he's from Philly. It now is like all making sense in my head.
Yeah. So he's a cool dude as well.
Speaking of Philly, one of the guys from Boyz II Men is on Dancing with the Stars. You guys fucking psyched about that?
He is.
Motown Philly.
He was pretty good too.
He's a great dancer, yeah.
Yeah.
Doing a little East Coast swang.
He danced to that song. It's been stuck in my head.
That's a jam. That is.
They had some hits.
A jam.
Yeah, they had some hits.
John.
Yes.
Ghostwatch. This is my staff pick. This is a film that, people who listen to the show know I go bonkers for found footage movies. I love them. I love the good ones. I still kind of like the bad ones because I'm just into it. Huge Blair Witch fan. I love The Last Broadcast, stuff like that. So since we started this show, people have been telling me, bro, you got to watch this Ghostwatch thing. And I've had it on a hard drive for probably 7 years. I'm not going to lie. And I finally watched it recently, like on a Sunday afternoon, and just thought, you know what, this is like pretty cool. We should do this as a staff pick. Basically, the deal was it was a BBC special, and BBC, I guess, does all these news magazine-y type things. So it was under one of these umbrellas, and it aired on Halloween night in either 92 or 93. I can't remember exactly.
92.
And basically it was a war of the worlds kind of a situation in which people at home were just losing their minds. Parents who let their kids stay up to watch it, who, by the way, maybe not good parents.
I mean,
freaked out.
You might not have known, right?
And there ended up being a bunch of fallout from this as well. And I watched a bunch of stuff on YouTube today. There's all this like talk show stuff from the time. And I discovered that the UK has their own version of shitty like Best Week Ever shows, because I found at least 4 segments from like, remember when this happened? And it was all, Ghostwatch. It was crazy, Well,
there's apparently a whole retrospective documentary. At least that's what it says on Wikipedia.
Yeah,
that was created.
So the trailer, I'm like, they obviously couldn't get the rights to the footage because there's no footage from the thing in the trailer. So like, I don't want to watch that.
Interesting.
But yes, so this is my pick, and we watched it. Why don't you tell us?
Watched it.
Give us the bones of Ghostwatch. So
I didn't know if you wanted to do it since it was your pick, but I mean, you kind of just kicked it off at a really high level, which is that this is produced by and aired on BBC One, and it really is like I don't know, I haven't seen many of their sort of news magazine shows, but to Eric's point, like it's looks and feels like a legit BBC One news magazine. And the premise is that it's Halloween, and so they're doing this like special edition on ghosts, and like it's called Ghostwatch, and they're actually going to go to this one like sort of famous haunted house, and like visit with this family, and so they send a TV crew to kind of like stay overnight with the family, and so you essentially have the studio where there's the host. I should have looked up the host's name. He's like a somewhat recognizable actor. Or I think he like was a real person.
Yeah, I don't think he was an actor. It said he was like a TV presenter, like he hosted talk shows and stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, and so there you go. Like someone's tuning in, like they're seeing this guy and he's hosting a show. They're like, oh, this is the thing that he's hosting.
All right, so it was 1992. The host's name is Michael Parkinson.
Yeah.
Who is educated at the Barnsley Grammar School, as you might imagine.
Perfect.
He turned to journalism, worked on several local newspapers, and then joined The Guardian, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find his first work in television was as a current affairs producer. He joined BBC as a reporter. So he was a reporter and like a host, which is like makes this more insane.
Well, so you have him. He's in the studio. He is interviewing a sort of like spiritualist slash like, I don't even know what you would call her. But she's like a quote unquote scientist who studies ghosts, like that kind of person.
Nowadays, she would be on a ghost hunter show.
Yeah, which is what
and be spouting the same horseshit that she does in this movie.
It is funny. Like, this is 1992. It essentially is the same as like a lot of the ghost hunter shows, except they have this like whole in studio element going on. So then you have the people that are at the house, and at the house you have the people in the house, which is Sarah. She's the one who works for BBC. She has a camera guy and a sound guy, and then outside there's like these crowd of people that are there because they're filming this BBC thing, and there's like a guy, like a man on the street dude who's just interviewing people.
That I love the outside part, and we can talk about it, but I love the part where he just goes down the street and there's like other people down the street. That's such a cool little like,
they're just hanging out.
Yeah.
All night.
In the spooky playground.
Yeah, so they kick this off. It's supposed to be an hour. There's also this whole like bank of phones where they're taking phone calls, and people are supposed to call in with their own ghost stories, or like if they're like seeing stuff, and they put a real phone number on screen. Apparently, we were talking about this in the email. I didn't get a chance to read, but apparently that was a working phone number. When you called it, it like told you that it was fiction.
It said
like
it was a drama. Yeah, it said it was a drama.
But the problem was they started to get so many calls that it was just a busy signal, which probably like kind of, to Eric's earlier point, like kind of created this feedback loop of, some of the hysteria around this. We'll talk, I think, more about that as we get into it. But essentially, it's like a very straightforward haunting story. A single mom and her two daughters. One's like 12 and the other one's like 6 or 8 or something, maybe younger.
I'd say 8 is probably right for the other one.
Yeah, and so I
am an expert on kids now, John.
Things.
I am an expert on kids now, so.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, it's basically just like ghost stuff happens, but that like pretty slowly. Like the first hour of this really is just like a news magazine show where the guy is interviewing the woman about like, are ghosts real? Like, what do you think about this specific ghost? And then they like bring in sort of like my favorite was the American who's like the one who doesn't believe in ghosts. Like, he's the token guy who's there to be like, ghosts are dumb. And like, there's all these other explanations. And like, you're not a scientist, but he's just like a typical like asshole American guy. It's perfect. So
to be fair to him, and he is an asshole, but to be fair to him, like everything that the lady said was so dumb.
Oh, it's remarkably dumb.
But
he was so bored with it too.
Yeah. And maybe it's because of the like modern ghost hunter show. Maybe that I just like expect a little more like a better veneer on the bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
the bar has been raised, lady. Like your 1992 bullshit is not.
She's like, well, I don't know. You just have to believe sometimes.
Yeah.
She's like,
There were. Oh God, I wish I had written. It's been a long time since I like took notes while watching something, but this was one where there were lines that I wanted to write down because I was like, holy shit, this is like one of the craziest things anyone's ever said.
Mark.
Yeah.
What did you think of Ghostwatch?
Man, so
what were you guys all thinking going into this is my question, because it seemed like nobody was into watching this until after they watched it.
Oh,
I mean, I went in totally fucking blind other than knowing the basic premise of it. And watching it, I think that watching it and after watching it, I'm way more into the idea of it and how significant and like kind of prescient and sort of it ahead of its time it feels. I don't know, as a movie, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but I can imagine that if I was a little kid and I saw this, it would scare the fucking shit out of me and I would have a very sort of strong feeling about it. I can't really wait to talk about like the cultural significance and also in terms of like how I actually had not ever really even heard of this movie. And I feel like when Paranormal Activity came out, had we been little British children that grew into big, strong British men, we would have like talked about this in reference to something like Paranormal Activity or, Ghostwatch shows. So I'm really excited to talk about just like most of it, but as a movie, I don't know how much I really enjoyed watching it.
Casey, what'd you think?
So hadn't seen this before going into it, and I first learned about it like 2 years ago. There's another American movie that came out 2 or 3 years ago, WNUF Halloween Special. And it's a pretty independent joint and everything like that. And I'd watched that before I'd seen Ghostwatch, but in researching that one for the review, I had found out about Ghostwatch and whatnot. Kind of put it to the back of the head. Watching Ghostwatch now, I can see exactly where the inspiration for WNUF came from, because it is pretty spot on, note for note, throughout the whole thing for the way they set this up and whatnot. So I like to think that WNUF did it more as an homage than, say, a ripoff and everything, but they did veer different. They took a hard left at the end of the movie, too, so there's some difference there. That said, I really ended up enjoying this. I got kind of sucked into it because looking at it now, there's a campiness feeling to it because it's aged and it's dated, but it works. And I, like Mark said, if I was a little British boy watching this back in 1992, I probably would have peed a little.
Yeah, yep. Peed a lot, bro. Yeah, so I didn't see this until recently. So I did see it twice because I watched it again for the show. And oddly enough, the copy I had was missing half an hour. It's a whole thing. But I saw the full version finally for this show. I absolutely loved this movie, and I think that I get what Mark's saying. It's definitely like the middle part is kind of slow. There's a part where they're just like taking calls and stuff, but I actually do just love this as a movie, and I think that what's so interesting to me is the intricacy of what they're doing, of what they're trying to pull off, right? So, like, first of all, they're faking a live program.
And super effectively. That's to me what like makes this.
So you got different things going on. You've got the doctor and the host in the studio. Okay, you've got the crew's kind of outside of the house with the roaming reporter guy, who I just looked, and he is an actor actually. There's some more stuff at one point going on down the street. You've got the family in the house. You've got the mom in like a room. Then they're taking calls from people, and like they even go so far as to work in nice little like technical difficulties, or like, hey, this didn't work out, or hey, we need this piece of video. Oh, well, let's can we get that piece of video? Okay, we'll have it later, you know. And then they kind of go back to it later, and maybe I think maybe I appreciate it like on a deep level because of the TV stuff, because I'm just into that. But I also think that what that does is, and the whole thing is like has this fun, creepy vibe to it. So even when it's slow, I think it's all serving to create this atmosphere. And the more that they're doing to build up this atmosphere that this is real, to me it just serves everything in the end, and it comes through in this like amazing finale. But to me, the presenter guy, this what was his name? What did I say his name was? Michael something?
Yeah, Michael Parkinson.
Michael Parkinson. It all to me comes down to this guy. You got a person who's a news guy. He was a reporter. He was a television host, and you're basically asking him to do the job of an actor here, and he like kind of nails it. And I think like his presence is what carries this entire thing. That's such a cool idea to me. And beyond that, what Mark was saying, the cultural significance is also super, super fascinating. And the way that people wouldn't bat an eye at this now, but people lost their shit when it came out. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like it really was the same, maybe not on the same scale, but the same type of thing as War of the Worlds, where I think it might have brought this up on the email, or you kind of pulled it out of some of the other kind of like stuff that we were reading about from the blowback. But they had to insert a title card because they were worried people were going to freak out. But then so many people missed the title card because they kicked a commercial and people flipped channels.
So when the previous program ended, there was a commercial break. According to this thing I read today, the BBC was nervous about it the whole way. The producers were just like, no, it's gonna be fine. The BBC insisted that they put this like disclaimer at the top end, and the problem was that it's a commercial break, so people started like flipping around, right? And then they missed it entirely and came back to this program, you just turned it on in the middle of it, or guess what? Doing this as long as I have, people are really dumb, and I bet you a lot of people saw that and still thought it was real. I guarantee you.
We're so trained watching TV to just fucking gloss over stuff, even in 92.
Let me put it this way, like with the phone call thing, I used to answer contest calls, right? And we had an answering machine that said, if you're getting this, hang up and try again. Do not leave a message. And every day we would get dozens and dozens of messages, and it was just people going, "Did it win? Did it win the thing? This is outrageous," and just like raging. So even when you're explicitly telling people things, that doesn't guarantee that it's like getting into their cranium.
When do I get my steering wheel lock? I'm so excited.
So I like when you put this on the staff picks thing, I'm pretty sure I mercilessly made fun of you, or with some mercy, but there was fun making.
Yeah, you're mean.
There were wedgies.
Yeah, I was mean about it. So I went into this with like super duper low expectations and came away really impressed by, so much of that. What's interesting now, and I think it is worth like diving into, is how much of the enjoyment we are getting out of it now is sort of not even nostalgia, but just like the appreciation for, what I would call like proto first person horror, right? Like, there was probably, I don't know if we've ever talked like,
because like
stuff
the tropes,
that even predates this,
the
right?
tropes
Like
are
mockumentary
there,
type
though,
stuff,
right? Like the tropes are there, like the Paranormal Activity looking into a dark doorway thing, and the characters running from one floor of the house to the other, and your camera falls behind. Like all that stuff is there, and exactly, this is like a proto version of that.
I would be shocked if Oren Peli like literally hadn't seen this and like studied this, because so much of what makes this work is you can see it in the original Paranormal Activity. I mean, now with the Paranormal Activities that we, the 4, 5, 6, like they got way more complex. They've like done a lot. They spent more money on it. But this, just like the original Paranormal Activity, is probably super low budget, right? Like BBC didn't want to spend a ton of money making this. So they did a lot of the like camera mounted in the corner of a room. Like, why is it there? I don't know. Like, we're monitoring this fucking hallway. But it creates there's great tension.
Visual tension.
Yeah, visual tension created throughout this thing, just based on and honestly, so much of it, and Eric will probably appreciate it, it's like all in the production, right? Like they really did produce this the way that you would produce like a news magazine show, even to the point of like the cuts not being super perfect, like not seeming super perfect, but like seeming like you're editing live TV and like not always cutting at the exact right time. So there's a lot of like weird shots that make total sense in the context of a live production.
Because there's like those great moments like where they cut back and the stagehand standing in the middle of the stage and the host is like, get out.
They do this great genius thing too, where they'll be in the middle of their studio segment and then he'll just go, "Wait, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. We have to go back to the house." And that is so great at like creating that tension, because you're like, "Oh fuck, what's happening in the house?"
Very important.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it was just like the girls are getting ready for bed again, and
we're making tea because we're British.
Yeah.
Are we through our general reviews? I wasn't really.
Yeah, do your thing, bro.
Yeah.
So I will say honestly, like I didn't really dislike this, and actually the more I read about it, and one of the things I really appreciate about this is that we were like looking through instances where ghosts pop up, like looking at Wikipedia of like, oh, here's all the hidden shit in this movie. And that kind of gave me its own kind of cool nostalgia trip, because this was 1992, right? And like, if you were a person who like videotaped this, you could like go through with your friends and be like, yeah, fucking right there, and so like I got kind of a cool nostalgia kick from that.
Oh
but
my God, I want this on recorded VHS.
Well, we're all very kind of cynical, and we've seen a lot of movies like this, and we've seen everything. But I will admit that they got me once in this movie. The scene where it's pretty early on when the spooky shit starts to happen, when they like first have the shot of the bedroom. There's a very brief moment where you see a figure on the curtain.
Yeah.
And then they roll out the fucking John Madden TV with the
he's like,
pen
no.
thing
He's like, it's this new fascinating technology. Yeah, he's like, just pick up the pen and draw on it.
Which is awesome, because like if you were around for shit like that, it's just awesome to see that they were like, this is an amazing technological advance. But then they went through and they rewound the footage and it wasn't there.
It was gone. Yeah.
And they fucking got me, because I was like, no, it was there. Like I actually found myself getting kind of pissed that they did that. Like I was actually, knowing full well what the whole thing was, I was able to suspend disbelief for a second and be like, no, it's fucking right. It's right there. Why can't you see it? It's right there. And so like I did find myself getting lost in it at times.
They do this.
It didn't always hook
same
me,
reaction.
but like when it hooks you, it hooks you pretty well.
They do this great rope-a-dope with that stuff, and there's even like red herrings and stuff that's not real. And
It's very much of a haunted house effect because, like, with that scene, because I got sucked into it just like Mark did, where they show the scene, like the lights flash and you see a figure standing there, and then you're like, oh shit, there it is, and you kind of, I was even pointing at the screen, it's like, oh, I saw it, and then they cut back, it's like, oh, where'd it go?
Well, it was so cool to go back. It was so cool to go back and see that it, like, that one was like probably intentionally pretty obvious, but there were a lot of like not obvious ones that I thought were really interesting to go back through. So I just, again, like my appreciation for this is a little less in the moment because you miss stuff like that, but going back and be like, wow, they really, I agree that they took a lot of time to make it feel very real, like, you know, with all of the, in a non-cheesy way of having all of these like things that would typically go wrong during a live broadcast. I thought that was really cool. And also just to find out that they buried a bunch of shit in here that you might not see on a first pass. Like, I don't know that I'd ever care enough to go back through and watch the whole thing to try to pick it up, but I do appreciate that there's like all that stuff.
So this has made my list, my official list. I have a list of movies that I watch every year, like once a year. And it's like, it's the obvious shit.
Just
it's
to
like,
recharge your spooky.
It's like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, like that stuff. But like I have a bunch of found footage things I really love to watch, and it's Blair Witch. It is The Last Broadcast, and now this. Like I'm watching this every year. I feel like this is going to be my Halloween joint.
There's definitely. I mean, I did not catch all, but I missed all but maybe one or two of the sort of like ghost appearances. But I can absolutely see it going back and rewatch it. I would watch this like when my kids are older.
It's atmosphere. Like even the stuff in studio has atmosphere. They have these great scenes like where they're listening to the recording in the set and nothing's happening. Like they're just standing next to a giant reel-to-reel recorder and
the
listening.
Phone calls were genius.
The creepy voice, you know,
creepy
like
voice
the
is really
whole,
good.
there is to me like a creepy vibe emanating from this whole thing and just leads into this great crescendo. But like more than anything, to me, it's just it's charming because, and this actually in a weird way kind of dovetails into our Cloverfield Lane conversation because of the way that
don't
movie,
go crazy, bro. Some of us haven't seen it.
No, but that movie came out of nowhere, and we were lamenting like that doesn't happen anymore, and it's awesome that something can just come out of nowhere. And now, but we knew about Cloverfield Lane like what? A month out or something.
3 months. Yeah,
now imagine like just being a kid and flipping through the TV on Halloween night and finding this thing. That like it's almost in a way you have to kind of God, I sound so fucking old. I don't mind that monoculture isn't a thing anymore because I think that I'm all for like embracing technology, but that is a thing that I think people our age will miss, and it's a thing that future generations will never experience, at least in the same way. That kind of discovery. And that I just kept thinking about that, coming back to that while watching this.
This is somewhat related, but did you guys ever watch the MTV show Fear? There was only like 2 seasons. I was just getting kind of flashbacks to that because it was from 2000 to 2002. So I was like, I was 14 when that came out, and it was like after Blair Witch. I know you guys are so old, and I am so young. It was kind of similar, right? Because like we weren't, I don't know. It felt like they were like really hyping it up, and it kind of felt like
4 when this movie came out.
I was 6, thank you.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. Like it is. I agree. I agree with you, Eric. That like I feel like we often lament the death of the monoculture, but these I feel like it does. You know. All of this kind of spooky shit is sort of ruined now. Like, I can't even imagine who watches, like, real haunting shows and shit anymore. But there was a period of time
people who are dead inside.
What's up?
People who are dead inside.
Yeah, sure. But, like, you know, there are people, like, I don't know. I can't. It does
you couldn't do
give
this.
me... you certainly can't do it now. It just gave me, like, a very strong... nostalgia shot, if not for my days as a British child.
The wee British lad.
But of like a time where you were like, you would tune into something and you would, and it's crazy too. Like this only played once. So
yeah,
that's
well,
craziest
they
part
talk about that on the Wikipedia page.
This has had enough of an impact. And I sent Eric a picture of this, but there was like, again, reading about the impact, there's all of these stories about, you know, people like there was a kid who committed suicide and his parents blamed this for it. And like all of this, people are just blaming all these. And it's, you know, that's the sort of flip side of this, right? Where like because everyone's watching it now, it's like that's actually the flip side of the kind of monoculture thing is like before parents knew that anything else existed, if their kid fucking did something crazy, they blamed it on like Marilyn Manson or ICP or something, you know? And so like that's the other side of the monoculture, which is like you can glom on to like whatever the thing is you don't understand that's happening. But
yeah, now it's like Slender Man made me do it, and your parents were like, "What's that?"
what the fuck is a Slender Man? Right? Casey had to tell me what Slender
Somebody,
Man
who do I
was, so-
call? Who do
Well,
I
you don't
call to
have
get that off the
anybody that's
internet?
going to be sitting there hitting you with a Snopes link as soon as you post about it.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
did
true.
you see this TV show? It's fake.
It was a simpler time, and I think that vibe is such a like fun aspect. Of this.
I do think that they could pull something like this off. Now it would be really hard, but I do think it's possible. Like it would also, it's like super unlikely that they could do it on like an ABC, NBC. But
It would have to be like a home invasion.
But here's
or
the
something
thing, though.
like-
Here's the
Yeah.
thing. Here's the
real.
difference, though. In America, there are a lot of people, as we're learning now every day, John, that are very touchy about religious things. And the idea there were children involved, there's possession stuff, and like not for nothing, spoiler alert, I guess I'll throw the graphic up, but at one point it pretty strongly suggests that this girl is like being molested by this ghost.
Oh no, dude,
This
but come
ghost
on.
diddler.
Like, the counterpoint that I will make, and it's funny.
I'm
'cause
just
my
saying
wife
you
and I
couldn't
were
do
talking
it.
about.
I'm just saying you couldn't do it.
No, you could, and like frankly, one of the most popular shows for the longest time, and maybe still, is Law and Order SVU, which is basically nonstop kids getting fucking molested in like graphic.
No, but if you
descriptions of
did
it.
this in the same way and presented it as it was real, people would lose their.
No, I know,
You
but
could
that,
do it
I'm
on
saying,
a
like,
cable channel.
yeah, you could. I think you could. The real question is like, could you pull it off? And that to me is like the harder part, without it leaking or anything like that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like those Ghost Hunter shows, it's kind of what they're doing every week, except for it's just on a bootleg level of like they just go in a dark room and go, "Do you hear
Well,
that?"
this
Bloody
show,
disgusting
you
when it
actually
leaked the
see the
production.
ghost.
no, well,
Bloody
it would
disgusting would
basically.
leak the production details 6 months beforehand. So
No, it's basically it would be the way to do it would be to have like the season finale of whatever ghost show pick. I don't know what
Bachelor.
any of them are, or yeah, but have it like turn into a straight up horror movie where like it's produced and there's a real fucking ghost that you really see and it starts like murdering people.
I think
That's
we
the
should-
way
Because
you
they
would
have
do
done
it.
those live too, so that would be the only way you could do it. That's what I was thinking too, though. You would have to do it as a live setup so it didn't get leaked beforehand. There's a whole industry about leaking this shit. Not to mention the networks leaking that shit for free publicity.
We should remake this, and I think Lester Holt should host. I think he'd make a good Ghostwatch host.
I was thinking Guy Fieri. Is that a
So,
As long as he's the one getting the murderation.
got an all-American ghost
if
story?
you watch this, so the whole thing is on YouTube. It's never aired, to my knowledge, again on the BBC. And
yeah,
that's partially
it says
because
it's only ever aired once. That's what Wikipedia.
and we
says.
check BBC once a week.
that's
to make
partially because like they got raked over the coals for this thing. People lost their minds.
Yeah.
And
And
if you
this
go,
came out, Eric, to your point about monoculture, this came out in 92. Like, there was still only probably like 4 or 5 stations in most of the UK at that point. Like, because there was like, it's just like different over there, the way like television, and now it's
Tell me
changed,
more
but
about the way it is over there.
I just mean,
mean,
like,
we
there were
can't-
only like 4 stations for the longest time.
Yeah.
Now
we
they
also
probably have some more.
can't like honestly.
One of them
I
was
don't know.
just Julia Child all the time.
That's
What the
accurate.
stuffing in the duck? I mean, we
I wish
actually
Joe
can
was
like
here.
if. So I am 29 years old. To give you a perspective,
We've
on all of
dated
this.
Mark like 15 times on this episode.
Well, but honestly though, like there are. So if you're listening to this and you're 22 or you're like 18 or 19, you probably
God bless you.
God bless you. You won't fully understand what's going on, but you also like when we talk about the monoculture, the idea of monoculture ended in like I would say the early to mid 2000s. So
Yeah,
like
it hasn't
we
been that
cannot-
long.
What's up?
It hasn't been that long.
Okay, but we can't understand like 1992 is fucking crazy when you think about it. It's like it is
The Stone Age.
it's the stuff. There's like no internet, right? Like no,
Wow,
I'm saying-
what?
No consumer internet. Very few people are on
I'm
the
saying
internet.
in context of all this,
Schnars was.
there's no AOL, right? No one has AOL. So this predates like Blair Witch by let's say 4 years. I mean, we're like ragging on families for being fucking stupid, but like this, it is you can't even put yourself in that mindset because it is like it's so early. We can't.
Well, yeah,
It-
I'm super fascinated now, and I like want to spend some time like learning about the stuff that is happening around it because that's what's so amazing is for the thing that aired once, and Mark mentioned like the suicide thing, but like there's a blog that is still posting content in 2016
Like
called Ghostwatch Behind the Curtain, which I think is affiliated with the documentary that got made. But like there are people who are clearly like fucking obsessed with this movie, which
Right.
is really cool. I mean, like,
Dude, listen, you don't think if any of us saw this and you think if I saw this when I was a kid, I wouldn't still be talking about this shit and running like a Tumblr somewhere
yeah, no, that's totally
So-
true.
on Tumblr?
My own story to relate to this, it was not necessarily directly Ghostwatch, but it goes to the monoculture. But like I graduated high school in '92 when this movie came out, so I was the monoculture. I got the mono brow to prove it. They
you fully
and it
embrace
wasn't even like in
monoculture.
'92, but like '89, '90, the big thing going around in our area, there was a big cult scare. And it was nothing but
Yeah.
kids fucking around, but everything's so tight knit, and everything travels by word of mouth that people hear bits and pieces. It grows. It's like that telephone game where you line up kids in a line and you whisper something in one kid's ear and see how it changes by the end, because those rumors
I'm
and
familiar.
stuff start changing and explode. So I could easily see if BBC showed this once and then everybody started like, holy shit, did you see that? And then this happened and it's going to get even grander and grander as it goes.
So if you
Sorry, can I just sneak in with a quick plug before I forget? People often ask us about podcasts we listen to. I love to listen to Stuff You Should Know. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to that, but they do episodes like just digging into basically whatever people ask them to. But they did an episode about the satanic panic of the '80s that I just think is like maybe not directly related to this, but kind of fascinating in the same way.
isn't that like what the whole first season of True Detective was kind of about? Like, wasn't there some of that wrapped into there? I can't remember.
Not
Total non sequitur. Anyway,
Not really.
if you want to see this movie, it's on YouTube. And the other cool thing on YouTube is there's a couple of like talk show clips that aired, like it must have been the week after the show was on, and with what I will call the British version of Sally Jesse Raphael, like same haircut and everything. And she has put together this outrage
Sally
panel.
Jesse Raphael.
She's put together this outrage panel, and she has the two writers and like one of the producers of the show on it. And these poor people, like, I get it. They look like a deer in headlights, right? And when you're working on a project this big, I think it's just like you got your head down, you're focused on logistics, you're just trying to pull it off. And I think that, and they said this in some of the interviews like later that I watched, of like, we couldn't see it. Like, we were so focused on pulling this thing off that nobody stopped and went, like the network did, right? But they just kept thinking, no, it'll be fine. It's like a fun little thing, and we'll do this.
Surely people can't be that
And so,
stupid.
literally, parents just like, I let my parents in this audience just getting up and berating them. It's just great 90s talk show
Well,
stuff. But
one
like,
of the
I let
things-
my kid watch it, and he couldn't sleep for a week, or like, I couldn't console him. I couldn't get him to go to bed till like 1 a.m. And these poor producers look like they're gonna cry. They just were like, I'm just trying to do something fun.
Well, I
man."
mean, this anecdote kind of perfectly sums it up. One of the things that came up in that thing that you sent to us to check out was that number that they keep flashing across the screen is real. And if you call that number, it says it's fake, you dummy. But the problem is so many fucking people call that number that if you call that number, you got a busy signal. So the people who were most freaking out about it didn't get the message they were supposed to get by calling that. Because like, honestly, like burying a little number that you call, you get the indication that's like a cool little, oh, cool, I'm going to enjoy this now. But instead, it just turned into like abject horror because you can't get through to the fucking
only thing
hotline.
that could've
Yeah,
made
those
this
people
better.
are already scared, and then they call this number, and all they get is a busy signal. It's
Mr.
like, oh
Pipes,
god, it's a conspiracy.
Children, Mr. Pipes is coming.
The only thing that could have made this better is if it actually was live and they were taking like freaking out people calls on the air. That would have been.
Yes.
Mr. Pipes will be taking
So
your call.
we have a few minutes left. Like, are there any specific scenes you guys really liked or things you didn't like? I mean, I want to talk about the finale, but like I'm thinking of specific things.
So my favorite thing in this movie, and they sprinkled it in throughout early on, and there was cat noises going on that would pop every once in a while when the spooky stuff was going on, and they kept asking something about the girl's cat and why is she acting weird. Didn't think anything about it, and then I thought they did this genius thing with the guy taking the live phone calls in the studio, where he would stop them and with people calling in and stuff, and they had a guy call in, so he told him, which had also cracked me up, that they had to stop and pick up wired phones to talk to the people on the phones calling in. But this guy called in and he's like, do you know the whole history of this house? And so they dumped a little bit of backstory there, and it was really great and then it made the cat noises make sense, because there's this whole thing about the people that originally owned it, and the supernatural doctor lady, she was like, oh yeah, we already did all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, but did you know about their nephew that lived with him and killed himself in the glory hole? And he was in there for 12 days, and then the cats ate his face off, and then that's all of a sudden you hear these cats caterwauling throughout the house, and it's like, oh shit, those are ghosts too.
So
I don't know how we made it like this far
Yeah.
into the show without mentioning the fact that they say glory hole like 200 times.
We got to unpack a couple of things there. Like, I ended up having a conversation with one of our listeners on Twitter after the first time I watched this. So when Casey says glory hole, he's talking about, because apparently this is a thing that British people call, like, when you have stairs and then you have a little room, a creepy room under the stairs. They call that, or used to call that, a glory hole. I like to think that Pornhub has gotten to enough areas of the world that they now know what that means. Or what I'd like to know is, like, what do they call a hole in a stall you put your dick in? That's what I'd like to know.
So wait a second. Does that mean, isn't that where Harry Potter lived? So did Harry Potter live in a glory hole? Is that
He did.
I think that call where everything is revealed is like so fucking genius, and it is such a creepy moment. And again, it's like almost the scariest moment in the movie, and nothing is happening. You're just watching the presenters listening to the phone call, and you're just seeing their reaction.
And that caller had the perfect deadpan delivery.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on your perspective, like, that's the dividing moment where if you know this whole thing is all bullshit, you're like, oh, cool, a story. This is really fun. And if you're like totally buying in, you're like, oh, fuck, that's terrifying. You're just, it's very hard to talk about this like an actual in like an actual movie sense with acts.
All right, it's not a movie; it's a TV show, literally. I mean, there is kind of an act structure. I feel like the first act is a lot of intro. Second act is a lot of calls and kind of researchy stuff.
We need to find someone who's like 18, 19, 20 years old and make them watch this and just tell us what they think, because I think they'd probably be like, this is like the latest.
I don't think I need to know what they think of this, Mark. I don't.
There you go. Let's have Casey's daughter watch. I'm in. Did we talk about the name of the ghost? Because that might have been my favorite.
Mr. Pipes?
Pipes.
Yes, Pipes. Just
I don't know why I'm
so
adding
weird.
a Mr. in there. That's
But
a weird...
Mummy.
I think she did call him Mr. Pipes at one
Constable Pipes.
point. Pipes MD.
I mean, that is kind of a, Well, the other thing, so we didn't talk about this, and we can talk about the finale in a second, but one of the other sort of really cool production things that they worked in here is that there's a whole point of the movie where they show the kids making the noises that they're reacting to. And the presenter guy is basically like, can you talk to your children about why they're fucking lying little shitheads?
That's when that host checked out totally. He's like, you could tell that host was pretty much, oh, are you fucking kidding me?
He rides that wave until the end of the movie when shit's like literally exploding around him. And he's just like, I don't know. This is all flim flam and whammy wazzle. I don't know what this is.
The final shot, spoiler alert, which is like basically the dude possesses like the equipment in the studio at some point, and
and the host.
Well, right, but first, like, the set blows up, like lights are exploding, there's chaos, there's wind, like papers are blowing everywhere. Something just fell behind me. That was creepy.
Pipes.
And then there's like close up of the host. He's out of focus. I love all these weird out of focus shots where like there's nobody operating the camera. That's like another great touch. And then you just see the bottom half of his face, and he goes all like creepy poltergeist voice, and he starts. All I could make out was
the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
All I could make out was he says "fee fi fo fum" is the last thing he says. Like, this movie legit gave me chills at several points, and that was one of them. I thought that was such a cool little, and it's a great way to end it because nothing is okay. Like it ends and everybody's messed up.
Oh,
basically.
it's a disaster. No, I mean for me the scariest part was when they first go into the glory hole or start over. Like that was just I was just like, no.
And then another to me, like another incredibly creepy moment is when they start getting feedback to the studio that looks fine.
Yeah.
And like it's not real. And then when they cut back to just the chaos in the house, and then the reporters outside, he's freaking out. That, oh my god, the whole finale
Yeah, they're
is
hauling the
just
guy off in the
genius.
ambulance.
I will say too, like I guess my second favorite moment of this movie, and again, you just have to wonder, like how much of this is directly influencing other things. The tape delay thing in Scream, where they're like, "Oh shit, there's a tape delay," happens in this fucking movie. Like they're like, "Oh, those kids look fine and not possessed," and then they're like, that thing didn't fall off the wall yet. Oh shit, it's a tape delay," and they cut back, and it's just like fucking chaos in the
Shitty
house,
sequences,
which is
yeah.
I thought was such a cool touch.
Yes, yeah, totally.
The one thing I was disappointed with is they had a major section later on, and earlier on when they were first starting the show, they were showing this like I don't even know the full technical name of it, but the heat vision camera.
Yeah, it's like early night vision almost. It's like it's
Yeah.
some weird.
They
yellow,
had
and
a
green
section
machine.
where after all the chaos starts breaking out in the house, and they have all the lights off in the house, and you see the hostess lady that's in the house is walking around. You can see her in the heat vision. They're showing it in the glory hole and stuff like that, and then you keep seeing the house behind her, but they never really showed anything show up in that vision.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
figured that would be a good spooky vision when
But
you
again,
see something move under that
just
glory hole.
but
yeah, they
but it
teed it
still
up
works.
really hard in the beginning, and then it really there's just like not a whole lot.
But it still
that
works
comes from it.
because of the visual tension. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
true. I was like super tense.
But again,
when
it's
it was
like
happening.
that's what's cool about this movie is watching them go through the motions of and working with the found footage tropes and the kind of like because that's good found footage. You don't have to see anything, right? It's all about how you're being manipulated by the camera placement and stuff.
Well, I mean, I think a thing that sort of saves this relative to what it could be is that some of the scariest shit happens in the TV studio. You know, like with the way that they frame everything, because one thing we haven't talked about really anyone in the family. Like I thought the mom was the worst part of this movie by leaps and bounds. I don't know why. The kids were
Ouch,
okay.
I thought
but,
the
like,
little daughter was probably the worst actor in the movie.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that like it without the legitimacy of the broadcast people to kind of carry you through this movie just like takes a pretty deep slide. But I think the way that they framed everything kind of brought it all together.
It added some realism too, though, because they didn't come across as actors, obviously.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if like Anderson Cooper was just fucking freaking out about?
I really like the reporter lady too. She was also like a TV presenter, and was really married to that dude in real life, the other guy in the studio, which is another cool little tension thing because he's obviously like worried about her in the house.
Can we take
guy
a,
was my
he was-
favorite. I think.
He was
yeah?
so
Can we
British.
take a brief moment to talk about how fucking telethon guy had Donald Trump hair?
Yeah.
Like I think he had Donald Trump hair that like preceded Donald Trump hair.
In one of the
I like how he had infomercial problems with the stack of papers from the calls too. He couldn't hold on to them. Hold on.
in one of the best week ever segments I saw, like half of it was just riffing on how bad the guy's hair was.
I mean, it's again like, so they make this fake phone number for people to call, or make this real phone number for people to call to tell them it's fake. But then they also tell people on TV that there's a fucking telethon going on. So they, not saying they're asking for it, but like they're like, oh, there's a shit ton of people calling in. You should totally call
They
in.
really commit to it, and that's what's so cool about it. Like it's not half-assed. Aside from a thing at the beginning, like there's no attempt to make it. They're trying to make it seem real. You know what I mean? And like obviously now with your sensibilities, you would smell out this bullshit way faster. But like, so if you think about it on the continuum of found footage, right? Like noteworthy found footage, it's really like Cannibal Holocaust in like 1982. And then this like 10 years later. And obviously there's probably some other examples if you like dig deep.
Well, that's
But,
what I'm curious. Like what
you know,
I don't know about now.
Then you've got
that-
Man Bites Dog, which I want to say was like 94. And then really it's like Blair Witch Project and The Last Broadcast were both like 98, 99.
So it's in. We've got an interesting Ask BGH that but throws
Not
in some
interesting,
additional-
really.
No, it is interesting. I was gonna say it like debunks that, but like throws in some other examples that we should talk about.
Of like other proto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we?
Did anybody else find it weird that this maybe it was an era thing in the late 90s or something like that, but this house is haunted. They've been like scratching her kids up and stuff like that. And to start this show, they take the mom out of the house, I'll leave her kids in the house.
Hey,
and
let
then
this
the
reporter take
lady's
care of her
tucking them into bed and shit.
Mom is via satellite. That she's in the kitchen like, oh hi mom, you're on TV now.
But the mom comes back in the house at some point.
Yeah.
Well, when things start
After
getting
the kids are faking
But
it.
it's another great tension thing because leaving her out just makes the kids more vulnerable. It
No,
does. You're right.
I
It
did
doesn't make any
actually-
sense.
I did have a moment, Casey, where I was thinking about this. I'm like, that does seem weird that the woman's like, well, I'm gonna read you a story. Like she's in charge. The TV presenter's in charge of calming the children down and like taking care of
She's
them.
like, I'm gonna give you medicine for your upset tummy.
The most
Yeah, well, the mom just like sits in a room with fucking headphones on. Like
the most British moment of this whole movie is when the reporter asks the older girl if she's got her packet of crisps.
nothing quite soothes the body like a packet of crisps. Am I right?
That'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm scared. Can I have some crisps?
I would fucking love some crisps right now. That's all I ever want.
Some chips?
Chips.
You know. All right. I think that might do it.
Yeah.
Ghostwatch.
Yep.
All right, guys. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
What's behind the legend?
Listen, he's under the bed!
And most terrifying of all,
Come with me.
what's behind the mirror?
He's here.
Candyman, you don't have to believe. Just beware.
This is Jeremy Gardner. I'm the writer, director, star of The Battery, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back to do some fan mail. Info at bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. This one's from Dustin. This came in during the show. He says, I watched every single supernatural news show, including sightings, encounters, and certain segments of Unsolved Mysteries. Yo, Unsolved Mysteries was my jam when I was a kid.
Super dope.
Oh my God.
Agreed.
Growing up and realizing those shows were all bullshit doesn't take away the fun memories, and this is part of the reason I love Curse of the Blair Witch faux documentary on the Blair Witch DVD. Ghostwatch has always scratched that long-forgotten itch. Do any of you guys have similar memories of spooky documentary shows? In Search Of was before my time. I think Joe and Casey have both talked about In Search Of in the past.
Yeah. In
for me,
Search Of had it was hosted by Leonard Nimoy, and the theme music used to give me chills. It'd scare the crap out of me once it come on.
Yeah, Unsolved Mysteries, and it was all about Robert Stack just coming on.
Yeah, Unsolved Mysteries definitely.
I remember a specific time actually of my parents being away and Mark and I like watching Unsolved Mysteries and scaring the shit out of ourselves.
Yeah.
I used to watch.
fucked up people.
I watched In Search Of with my grandfather. That's like my one memory of In Search Of. But that was great. And every episode was like, it would be like the Loch Ness Monster and like Bigfoot. And they went deep on it. They went deep.
It was the Bigfoot clip in the intro to In Search Of with the music that always set me off. That was what scared me.
It's really up there with the real secrets of professional wrestling, where they taught me how they do all the fake shit in wrestling, and it really just ruined my life.
Like take a bump.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different.
I don't care what you say. It's still real to me.
And how they pay like the old lady in the front row who like swings at people, and
It's still real to me, damn it.
real to me, damn it.
Dustin goes on to say, congrats to Eric. I'll be watching the skies in June for the Blood Red Eclipse. P.S. I made that same joke when Joe announced his own daughter was on the way. Yes, I announced last week that I'm hashtag getting a daughter. Very exciting. And we got lots of lovely, very nice messages from Twitter fans. So thank you guys for that.
Should I announce at this point that I'm having another child? I don't know if I've talked about that.
One up.
Well,
This is a pretty fertile group of dudes here.
Yeah, in fact, mine's going to be
I
here
know I'm
before
wearing
Eric's,
a
I
chastity
think, right?
belt. I'm afraid I'm just gonna reproduce by accident.
Eric,
I'm not having it anymore.
Eric, you're due in June?
June on my birthday.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we're doing 5 weeks. So before the end of April, I will probably disappear for a little while.
John,
Yeah.
ask Eric more questions about when he's gonna have a kid, and then come up with a better answer right afterwards.
No, well, I realized that we've obviously talked about it as a group, but I hadn't talked about it on the show.
Oh,
so.
your kid's gonna be 19 inches at birth. Mine's gonna be 6'4". That's cool.
So what we didn't touch on last week is that it's been a long running joke that's what was going to kill the show eventually. It was when I had a kid.
Hang on tight. We're in for
Listen,
a fun ride.
I'm already making plans, you guys. It's going to be all right. Nobody panic. It's going to be okay.
Oh, Lord.
Eric's gonna just teach the baby how to run the board, and we're gonna be all good.
Yeah. Good luck with that, my friend. Good luck.
I'm just waiting until she's old enough to come on and then have me shame Mark for not being able to put her to bed like Joe last week. That was pretty good.
No, I think you mean The Prisoner.
All right, Schnars, I got a test for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the corridor of shame?
No, I don't think so.
So this came up, it's something to do with the Carolinas and schools, and it came up last week, and Beth wrote in a pretty long definition. I kind of want to read some of it. But basically...
Wait, this is the same Beth who wrote in about Duke Hospital?
I know I talk shit about long emails. I don't want her to get the impression. This is actually a really, really well-written email. It's just super long. But basically, the corridor of shame are the school systems along I-95 through North and South Carolina. They are rural and severely underfunded, and they are also known as the country ghetto. Due to a history of poorly funded public education, segregation, the collapse of the state's textile industry, and language in the state constitution only requiring minimally adequate education, quote unquote, many of the schools in rural eastern South Carolina along Interstate 95 are in extremely poor condition, often lacking basic necessities like maps or air conditioning or computers.
Maps. They're so expensive.
The area has been dubbed the Corridor of Shame. Meanwhile, schools in the Lexington-Richland area receive hundreds of thousands in funding, technology grants, and campuses the size of small colleges. So anyway, she went to school there, and she goes on to talk about it. It's pretty nuts.
Wait, how did this come up?
Somebody, I think she made a joke about it. She said excuse my typos. I was in the corridor of shame or something. I'm like, what is that? And then Joe made a joke about Mark's wiener.
Of course he did.
And then I tried to figure out how that makes any physical sense, you jerks. That's like
anyway,
a hallway.
It's a really interesting email. I apologize. It's just super long.
Just forward it to the podcast crew, and so we can read it.
I will. Next up, Morgan says, hi, BGH. I love your review of 10 Cloverfield Lane. It made me think about all the subtle things I didn't pick up on and makes me want to watch it again. I was wondering if any of you have watched Ash vs. the Evil Dead. We just binge watched it this week, and it was great. It has the same feel as the original movies, and Bruce Campbell hasn't lost any of his goofy swagger. I know you guys probably wouldn't review a whole series, but it's worth checking out. I'm going back through the old episodes recently and have been enjoying the flashbacks. Thanks again for all you do.
You know where it was reviewed?
All of it.
On bloodygoodhorror.com.
Did we get episode reviews for all the episodes?
Sophie did, yeah.
Baller.
Yeah.
Casey, what did you think of it? Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I think she's right. It did feel a lot like the old shows. It fits in good with what felt like, especially between Evil Dead 2, Armies of Darkness. That kind of it really had that kind of a more of a zanier feel. But I like the way that they're spinning off the story and adding more to it. I think it actually works better than if they tried to come back with another movie all these years later.
It almost is better than doing a movie. I haven't seen it, but I could see how it makes way more sense to just do a show.
Yeah, but they could do it in bite-sized chunks and just play off those chunks, and they do a pretty good job with that. And it actually fits in pretty well to the existing canon out there that exists for the Evil Dead movies, so that's kind of cool.
I mean, that's the flip side of the end of the monoculture, right? Is that there's enough people who are really into the Evil Dead movies that they can just make a TV series about it that people will be really into, which is cool.
Or they listen to our show, right? Our show doesn't exist in a place where monoculture is still a thing. Our show exists because the culture is so fractured. You can just find the weirdest niche little thing you want,
Just find a couple thousand weirdos to listen to us spat our bullshit for years on end.
Next up, Danielle. Hi, guys. Wanted to congratulate Eric on the great news. I can tell you that getting a daughter is likely the best thing that will ever happen to you. I don't have one, but I am one, and I am confident that my mother prefers my sister and I over my stupid brother. There you go.
Bringing a fastball.
Yeah, I like that one. Next up, Sam.
Coming in hot.
Sam, really looking forward to your take on Ghostwatch. One of my favorite supernatural mockumentaries ever. It may be the best of its kind. Just wondered if y'all have seen its cousin, The Stone Tape. Not a mockumentary, just a straight-up teleplay on the BBC, but it's thematically similar with a comparable and satisfying payoff at the end. Also, Lake Mungo, an Australian mockumentary about a haunting event, is really top quality. Todd has reviewed it for BGH. There's a blast from the past. And I can't recommend it enough if y'all haven't seen it for yourselves. Big fan of the show. Looking forward to 371. Thanks, Sam in Austin. Todd, the most prolific writer in BGH history.
For real.
No, but so I haven't seen the Stone Tapes, but it shows up in IMDb as like, you should also watch this.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard Lake Mungo come up a lot.
Yeah, I would watch that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to look it up. I'm going to Google it right now, Mark, while you do tweets. We're also on Twitter, at BG Horror, with the hashtag AskBGH. What do we got?
I should probably send Mark some tweets. Do you need the tweets, Mark?
No, I think Eric's given up on putting them in the feed, so I'm just going to read them.
Oh, perfect.
Correct.
This first one is from Pittman1382 for Joe, who's not here, but I'm going to read it anyways. Does Joe BGH still think that Lawrence Fishburne is phoning it in? This is also hashtag with BGH Classic from episode 239 and 240. Hashtag the war is on. Hashtag Cuba.
I didn't understand the Cuba thing, but otherwise I do remember that being a thing.
This Stone Tape thing looks crazy because it was from 1972. And actually they have some similar wacky looking telestrator technology, so
this is a good
on topic.
This is thanks, Eric. This is a good time to mention that we are trying to get people to use the hashtag BGH Classic. If you hear something like remarkable or silly or something that you want to bring up, just tweet it with the hashtag BGH Classic and we'll read it on the show. I actually went all the way back through that hashtag to see if there was anything new, and I saw the first ever tweet with that, which was a list of all of the fucking embarrassing things from episode 1, and it made me feel terrible about myself.
Oh God.
So there's that. I don't know if we ever read it on the show, but it's
we can. Let's do it.
No, I'm not gonna read it. I'm definitely not gonna read it. I will tell you without you looking at it, you do not want me to read it. Okay. So there's that.
How can you get episode 1, Mark?
You can get episode 1 by becoming a patron on Patreon. That's patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror at the $10 a month or above level.
The genesis of this.
And if you hop on at the $6 or above level, you get access to everything up to episode 19,
which really is
11.
Which is all you want to hear anyway. I would say pick up at 50.
Oh man, episode 1 is a real shit show.
I could only go back to 200 if I'm being honest.
Also, we've got our own little BGH Classic going on because this was the OG 4 crew here that we've got on the show.
It's true.
Yeah.
Got that interloper Joe.
Think about that. All right, next one. Alan Murch, have you ever unwittingly been involved in an awkward glory hole moment? Would that explain John's monocle? Hashtag cock jab to the eye.
Nailed it.
There was, so when I was at school at Duke University, Eric,
go on.
There was a men's bathroom that had a glory hole in it.
Wow.
In the basement of our student union. And there were a lot of stories told about that bathroom. None of them were ever substantiated, but I never had a moment in it. But I just thought I should bring that up.
And none of them were ever substantiated, despite all the weekends I spent in there.
Yeah,
I
monitored that glory hole.
Somebody's down there right
now. Set up a webcam.
Somebody's down there right now with his dick in it, listening to this, and he's like, "Shit, Schnarr just blew up my spot."
Oh my God, I missed my chance by 10 years. Also, if we're talking BGH Classics and Glory Holes, shout out to The Unborn, which I think is probably the only other episode we've ever talked about a glory hole so much. Where, if you haven't seen that movie, there's a scene where cockroaches and insects and sludge shoot out of a glory hole in a bathroom for no reason.
That's just a cautionary tale.
Yeah, it was. They were like, it was commenting on, free sex and whatnot.
Also, we talk about Odette Eustman and for most of it because she was the most interesting part of that movie.
I was gonna say there wasn't a whole lot else to talk about there, but
all right, next one is from Robale. Better Vacation: Lawrence Fishburne's rape cave in Predators versus Brian Cox's Monkey Jail versus John Goodman's acid bunker.
I'll take Brian Cox's Monkey Jail any day.
Lawrence Fishburne's, it wasn't really a rape cave. It was more just like
a sad trailer.
Yeah, it was sad, but like I think that's probably the best.
Like the best place to visit or
to
live.
hang out. I mean, maybe if he's not there.
I mean, the acid bunker is fine as long as the acid has not yet been brought out, right?
I couldn't handle being in an enclosed space like that with no sunlight. I'd fucking lose it.
Holding on to one another's hand, boom, 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 boom. Trying to get
Mr. Sandman
into the night, and then you put your arms around me, and then no, okay. Next one is from Fat Punk 68. Love
is
it.
He a bassist?
As a Brit and knowing all the actors were real TV people, made this really realistic, and he was called Pipes. Gulp.
Yeah.
Not a question. Fine statement from a Brit though. Also, I like your Twitter handle.
I would like our listeners to recommend more cool British stuff to me because I think I'm going into a phase now. So
Spooky Biscuit. All right. Next one is from the next three are from B. Lassiter. What's a glory hole and why has Eric BGH's mic been in one?
I don't
think that was a joke about some pre-show banter we were making about where Eric's mic's been. In a butthole. All right. Next one, also Pete Lassiter.
You made Casey choke on his vape.
Do any of you remember watching Without Warning?
Never heard.
Yeah, so this was the movie that I was talking about. And I had no idea what he was talking about.
Do you want to tell us
I don't
about
remember
it?
this at all.
I'll read this opening paragraph from Wikipedia and see if it rings any bells. Without Warning is an American CBS TV movie directed by Robert Isco, featuring veteran news anchor Sander Van Coor and reporter Bree Walker as themselves, covering a breaking news story of 3 meteor fragments crashing into Earth's northern hemisphere. The film, which premiered Halloween night, October 31st, 1994, is presented as if it were an actual breaking news event, complete with remote reports from reporters. The executive producer was David L. Wolper, who produced a number of mockumentary-style films from the 60s
I want to
onward.
see that. What's it called?
Yeah, so
Without Warning?
It sounds like, so like I was reading it earlier, like they basically are playing like another movie and then they start cutting into that
shit.
movie to like bring you this like breaking news thing.
You guys, the
That's
whole thing
awesome.
is on YouTube.
It
Oh my
is?
Oh yeah.
Hello there.
Giggity.
That's amazing.
Good
Apparently,
times.
it has also been aired on the Syfy network.
Well, in 84,
without
94 was
commercial
probably
breaks.
inspired by this, by Ghostwatch.
You'd think.
I mean, I feel like we thought we knew where all these like mockumentary movies and TV shows came from, and now we're just learning about all these other ones.
hey,
We're like, shit.
Please give me more. I'm watching this thing like as soon as the show's over. So
There you go. Last one, very last tweet from B. Laster. The origin of the term glory hole is the furnace that glassmiths use to heat glass. Word of the day, bitches.
Nice.
Some good knowledge bombs being dropped.
I'm surprised glory hole wasn't your word of the day.
You know what? If I'd thought about it,
it's too bad that it's like so distasteful because it's like it's kind of a great word. It's got a great ring to it. Like it just
You want to take it back? You want to restore it to its original meaning?
Let's bring it back.
A closet underneath the stairs. Bring it back to its high class origins.
Or like the pub, like, hey, I'm gonna take a trip down the old glory hole later.
Harry Potter lived in a glory hole.
Have some drinks.
Oh, like where you relive your glory days, like the watering hole where
The
you
hole
relive your
where the
glory
glory
days
was,
gets
yeah.
shortened into glory hole. Yeah, sure. Why don't you just walk out in the street and yell, "Who wants to join me at the local glory hole?" and see what happens?
We're going to the glory hole.
oh Christ!
You by yourself screaming in the middle of the street.
It's a good way to get stabbed.
Yeah, that's it. That's all we got. Yeah, that's a good way to get stabbed. Ricky. That's it.
Ricky.
That's all we got.
Yeah, cool. Twitter. at BG Horror with the hashtag AskBGH. What else we got going? What's going on at bloodygoodhorror.com right now, Mark?
Oh my god, by this time next week, all sorts of shit. You're going to be able to get into all the sections finally and start digging into stuff. We have the top however many shows of the 80s coming up. I think we've done 50s, 60s, and 70s, so Andrew's lists are coming up. We've got new reviews every day. Not next week, but the week after, you can look forward to Sophie's drinking game and then some information about Tweet with BGH coming up. So we've got all sorts of cool shit happening.
And we got some open weeks coming up, so we're going to be having discussions on what that stuff is about. I guess if you have recommendations, let us know.
Yeah, and follow us on Bloody Good Horror on Instagram, because that's usually where, if we don't decide on the show, I usually drop the bomb on the Instagram about what we're doing next.
Yeah, totally. Anything else we got going on? Patreon.
Pretty low key.
If you want
Always
back episodes
happening.
of the show, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. You also can get some merch maybe with some things, and you get access to the live streaming video of the show every week. It's pretty exciting. So you can see all the dancing and this sick Full House gift that I've had up for like 3/4 of the show.
Yeah, there's some great gifts.
Yes. My gift work is impeccable, John. I think everybody knows that.
You bring your A game.
All right. Anything else? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I think that's it, man.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for the latest round of staff picks. First staff picks round in a long time. It was a rousing success, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, I would say
My
high
God.
success.
Maybe
It was
the best
fucking
one.
out of control. It was the weirdest round of staff picks we've ever had, I
Yeah,
think.
very good. And who knows? Maybe we'll get another round in this year just for shits and gigs, Mark.
It felt good to challenge ourselves.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right, guys. I guess that's it. Hope you enjoyed our discussion on Ghostwatch, and we'll talk to you soon.
Toodaloo.
See you.
Bye-bye.